Alright guys, so today I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a rundown on my fuel system setup and what I'm going to modify to make it work for my power goals and stuff. So let's get into it. Fuel system so far, I showed you guys that I converted to a top feed fuel injection system from a later model WRX. So all my fuel rails are top feed. They used to be side feed, now they're top feed. And I got Works 1200cc top feed injectors, so those will be good for 500 horsepower, no problem, on E85, which is the plan. And then you can see right here, this is where the factory fuel pressure regulator goes for the top feed cars. And I installed an adapter to a 90 that goes to a push lock fitting down here. From here to here is the room I have to work with to put all sorts of stuff for my fuel system. So let me show you my game plan for this. So this right here is the factory oil line system that came out of my car. With my car, the fuel pressure regulator was not located on the fuel lines. It's located in the fuel lines, not in the fuel rails, I mean. This is what was on the car, and this is the fuel pressure regulator in this section somewhere. But you can see that there's pulsation dampers, some looped lines, and a bunch of stuff going on there. And then this is what the fuel lines look like for WRXs with top feeds. So you got fuel pulsation dampers, your lines, your connectors, a really simple setup, and then you have like a return line that comes through. A lot more simple as far as this goes versus this. Now for what I needed to scrap this whole thing and just start fresh. I could have used these, connectors and splice lines in and stuff, but I needed to get these pulsation dampers, and these are pretty expensive, but these entire lines I got off eBay for 35 bucks, so it was cheaper to buy these entire lines than just the dampers. So I went with this, and I'll just use these connectors because they're newer and nicer. Okay, so here is a diagram of what I'm kind of going for here. So my feed line, which is this top one, is just going to stay the same as this. Not going to change it at all. That one's staying the same. So that makes it easy. All of the stuff I need to do is on the return line. So I'm going to have from the firewall, return line, go to this pulsation damper right here. Then it's going to come through, go into my fuel pressure regulator on the bottom port. This port's going to be plugged. It's a dual feed system. So that's going to come through there, and then out this hole into the fuel rail return line. And then I have my evap line that goes here to there. I don't have to touch that at all. And then this is just a boost reference line, and then a fuel pressure gauge is going to be bolted to here. So now that you've seen my plan, this is what the stuff I have. So I got some new fuel line. I got all sorts of push lock and fittings, and adapters, stuff like that. I got an Aeromotive fuel pressure regulator, an Aeromotive fuel pressure gauge. So that's the new fuel pressure regulator. So I got to figure out where to mount this, and then from there I could figure out how to route the lines. But pretty much these two fittings right here is -6AN O-ring style, or straight cut, whatever you want to call it, to -6AN, and those are going to go into this hole and this hole, and then this plug right here is going to plug up that hole, and then this guy is going to go on the bottom here, and this guy's going to go right there. And I got some clamps too, some Oetier clamps, I think that's how you say them. But these are going to make a real clean look, better than these high pressure clamps. And then I'm just going to reuse these ends, just snip a line here, reclamp it, and all that stuff. But yeah, that's what it's going to look like. So I'm going to get started putting some stuff onto this fuel pressure regulator, and then I'm going to figure out where I need to mount it. Alright, so first things first, I'm going to get these threaded on there. Now for these -6 straight cut fittings, you don't need to run any sealant. The only sealant you need to use is for NPT fittings. But these ones you just tighten, hand tight, and then a quarter turn is usually what works for them. Okay, so I think I'm going to mount the fuel pressure regulator right here on the fuse box lid, and I'm going to get some, spacers, some nylon spacers or something to hold it. So that line is going to go down to here. I might need to angle that a different way. And then this bottom line is going to 90 and just go straight into that bottom line right there. So that should be the cleanest, easiest way to do it. I just need to figure out what's the best orientation for that to get around some of these other hoses down here. Okay, so I decided I'm going to mount this to the fuse box cover. I'm going to take this mark out where I need to drill my holes, and I'm going to drill the holes, and then I have some screws and nuts that I'm going to figure out how to affix this to it. I'm going to need to get some nylon spacers or something, but I'll get those later. For now, I'm just going to get the holes drilled so I have an idea where this is going to mount. Okay, so here's where the fuel pressure regulator is going to sit. I need to figure out a better way to mount this, but it's hung where it's going to be, so that'll let me make the lines, and then I could figure out mounting it later when the hardware store is open. I think it looks pretty good mounted there. It clears the hood and everything. So I'm going to install the other plug on that side now that I know where I'm routing the lines, and I'm going to install the fuel pressure gauge. Okay, so I rotated this one a little bit this way, and I tightened it down because that one's not going to come out. And then this one I rotated down, and I cut this line right here. I got the clamps on there. So that's going to go in this underneath that AC line, and then into that line right there. Okay, so I got the hose installed on the fitting, as you can see. Now I'm going to slide this clamp dealie on there. And just so... going to be on like that. Now for these type of clamps you have to use a special type of plier, and basically okay, and that's clamped. So all it does is it squeezes that. Let me show you an unclamped one. So it starts out like that, and you put the pliers around here and you squeeze the pliers together, pinches that joint and squeezes the hose together, and it makes a really tight fit. So now this can go on the other fitting, and I'll put the other clamp on that other fitting. So there's the fuel line hooked up there, and it goes underneath this AC line and then into here. And I need to hard mount this so that it stays better, but that's that. Now I just need to make the line from down here that goes to over here. This was what it used to be like, you see. So I pulled off that end, and I took off this end and I put one of those clamps on it just to make it look more uniform. And then I put this line on there. Now this line I measured out to be the perfect length. It's going to be in there like this. So here's the firewall and here's the fuel pressure regulator. So it just kind of loops down like that. So I'm going to pull that fitting off. Well, I'm going to put a clamp on here, pull that fitting off, put a clamp on that fitting, and then reinstall it, and that should be done. I like it. Alright, there we go, that's the finished return line. Okay, so if you take a look here, you can see I got the line installed on that bottom line, and it comes down to the fuel pulsation damper, does a loop, and goes straight up into the fuel pressure regulator, and then it comes out right here into a 90, comes down, goes underneath the AC line, and then it pops into the fuel rail with a 90 right there. And that's pretty clean routing of the lines. Now I just need to run the evap line from here back to there, as well as the feed line from there to there, and I'm gonna redo the clamps on that just because. Okay, and then I also need to get a little piece of vacuum line and run a boost reference line from here down to this little nipple right down here. And then of course I need to figure out how to mount that properly and put the fuel pressure sensor or gauge on there. So I'm gonna go ahead and take care of all of that, and I will be back once it's done. All right, so I went ahead and got some new hardware for the fuel pressure regulator mount. These are like nylon spacers, and I got some longer nuts. I'm probably gonna have to trim these though, but I'm gonna install them and see how much needs to be removed. All right, so got that bolt trimmed, and now the fuel pressure regulator fits on there perfectly. It's solidly mounted. I mean, there's a little bit of spring in it, but it's okay. It's not going to be any issue. I prefer a little bit of spring in it, but it's probably because it's mounted to this plastic piece, and then there's these long spacers, so it's all good. But yeah, now I'm just going to permanently connect all the fuel lines and get them tight and stuff so that it won't leak. Everything's installed. I got the fuel feed line going into the top. The return line comes through there, goes behind the fuel pressure regulator into there. Yeah, the fuel system looks pretty clean. I like how it turned out, except for the gauge is sideways, but that's where it tightened up to, so that's where I gotta leave it. But other than that, everything looks pretty good. Looks like it belongs in there, you know? Not too bad. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. If you liked it, hit the like. If you aren't subscribed, please consider subscribing. And as always, thanks for watching, and I will see you on the next one.